greet you this evening in the spirit of peace and in the name of the Most High. I am extremely honored to share in this momentous occasion with you this evening. Your theme, "We are one united by community, church, and family," is one that links you and countless other Americans of African descent to the mother continent, in that it highlights the interconnectedness and intertwined significance of this trinity, if you will, community, church, and family, to an institution that has existed since time began. In the traditional African sense, prior to the Middle Passage and enslavement experience, there was no division between the three. There was no distinction between the secular and the sacred. These concepts of family, community, and religion were integrated into daily life. And so your commemoration and celebration gives honor to a long-held African tradition, and it upholds the values of our ancestors. I was asked to speak briefly about the historic importance of community, church, and family, and to provide some personal insight on how and why it is important still, even in the 21st century, to remember and study the past, to connect with our elders, and to commit ourselves to knowing us. Historian and professor of African world history, John Henrik Clarke, defines history in a rather profound and poignant way. He stated, "History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is also a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells a people where they have been and what they have been, where they are and what they are. Most importantly, history tells a people where they still must go and what they still must do." These two metaphors, history as a clock and history as a compass, are most appropriate in describing the trials and tribulations, travails and triumphs of the Black experience in America. During the enslavement period of our history, Africans brought to America had to outwardly rely on the overseer and the sun to tell their time of day. Linked together by the enslavement experience in the antebellum South and the deep North, domestic slaves in the private residences of Rhode Island families, and field slaves on the tobacco plantations of Virginia, and slaves on the rice and indigo plantations of South Carolina, as well as slaves on the cotton fields of Georgia and Sumpter County perhaps, formulated creative ways to maintain community, family, and faith. They, through sorrows, separation, floggings, rape, and sheer deprivation, found comfort at times in the creation of songs that foretold their yearnings for freedom, even in the midst of their bondage. And though plantation owners sought to thwart their sense of community by selling them away, enslaved Africans used the skills and resources they brought with them. Yes, they brought resources with them, music and song. They vocalized their feelings in work songs and religious rhythms laced with coded lyrics. You know them. Wade in the water. Wade in the water. Children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land, and tell, Pharaoh, to let my people go. No more auction block for me. Sun up to sundown, picking that cotton. This was their way of telling the time of day, as well as declaring, I will be free. No more auction block for me. Frederick Douglass noted that slaves, while on their way to work, would sometimes sing the most pathetic sentiments in the most rapturous tone, and the most rapturous sentiment in the most pathetic tone. This they would sing as a chorus to words which to so many would seem unmeaning jargon, but which nevertheless were full of meaning to themselves. The Civil War meant several things to the enslaved. It was indeed the War of Jubilee. They were free to move about as they pleased, free to rename themselves, free to marry, and free to simply be. Many traveled the southern countryside in search of family members who had been sold up the river, or to Massa Johnson's plantation in Hancock Lee or Sumpter County, and many went north, following that compass toward a new existence on the map of human geography. About 6 years ago, in my quest to understand who I am, I traveled the dusty roads of South Georgia seeking answers to those two ideas. I went to Chicago to visit a great aunt who had gone to Chicago in the 1950s, and there I met with her to capture the stories of our family's past. She shared with me the story that her grandmother, who was born in 1858, shared with her. The story goes, she watched her young sibling, a girl, being sold into slavery. Her mother was asked to allow the child to suck teat on the wagon. And when they got to the line, the mother had to get off the wagon and lead the child. And the child was sold into slavery in Virginia, and they never saw her again. After I had interviewed my great aunt in Chicago, 2 weeks following, her husband, Harry, died. I tell this story because it is important for us to connect with our elders and to capture these stories, because when they die, these stories die with them, and we're still left wondering who we are and where we have been. The 300 years of enslavement caused a fracture in the continuity of the African and African American family that is so deep that even today we find ourselves still searching to know who we are and where we have been. That is the significance of such an event as this one tonight, that you and your children and your children's children will always know that they are connected to something that is older, greater, deeper, and grander, and that community, church, and family are the three institutions that have sustained us as a people. Acknowledging our history in this way is redemption. I encourage you to continue this time-honored tradition until the day when time shall be no more and a compass is no longer needed to guide us, because we'll all share the story of how we made it over. Be blessed. Amen. Ashe. Shalom.